I've been having a fun time kind of getting to explore this St. Louis scene that you guys have going on with everyone that's been on so far. So I'm stoked to add another St. Louis band.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
dude. I think St. Louis is a little bit underrated in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you guys got some good stuff. The first band that I talked to from St. Louis was obviously like Wes Hoffman, and that was a few years back now. So it's nice to kind of get resurgence. You always know of like St. Louis as being like a good stop.
Hmm.
And I was out of the scene for quite a while, so I lost like all my connections in the St. Louis scene. So it's nice to see that it's still good and thriving down there.
oh yeah, alive and well.
Yeah, very much so. I didn't realize that you had done a pod with Wes. He's our boy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I sat down with him maybe it was either 21 or 22. So it's
Oh,
been
okay,
a
so a
while.
while. Yeah, okay, cool.
Do you guys have any questions before we get started?
no,
Yeah,
I'm good.
yeah.
Sweet. My only question for the two of you is: do you have an unopened beer that you like to participate in the opening crack with?
Yes.
I do.
Sick. All right. So what I'll do here is I'll count us down. We'll crack these. I'll bring the two of you in. And we'll just have a good time.
Sounds good, man.
All right. In three, two, one. Welcome to the Beers and Bands podcast with your host, Michael Torres. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Beers with Bands. Very stoked to add another St. Louis band to the list, the ever-growing list. I think at this point, I'm sure there's going to be a few more that'll pop up in the inbox here pretty soon after this one. But I'm sitting down with Interpersonal tonight. How y'all doing?
Doing well,
Yeah, man, doing really well.
Uh,
Thank you for having us on.
Dude,
for
of
sure.
course, this is a great way to have a Sunday. Have some beers. It's not negative outside. It's the sun's actually out. It feels like a good start to the spring, and like the 2025 can really get started now. I feel like,
Yeah, it's 52 here, which is something to celebrate as far as warmth is concerned, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
dude, I'm telling you right now, it says it's 47 outside, which I haven't seen 47 in quite a while. Like I feel like
Mhm.
just a few days ago it was like negative 30, so
Yeah,
feels great.
I was I was gonna say we can't really complain about cold, I guess, with what you guys get up there.
Yeah,
that's
you
true.
guys did at least get a crazy ice storm a few month or so back. Time's a construct.
Yeah,
You guys took the brunt of that for us, so I appreciate it.
that was brutal. And
Mhm.
the worst part about that ice storm, it was like it started off ice, and then it stopped icing, and then it snowed, and then it just like layered on top of each
Oh,
other,
jeez.
like intermittently. And I didn't realize how bad it was and how much ice was like actually on the ground until one point I was taking the trash out, and I was like I stood on like a larger like uplifted thing of ice, and I looked down and I could see the dog's poop scoop all the way at the bottom, and it was like under maybe 6 layers of ice, and I was like, yeah, that ain't happening
Yeah,
anytime soon.
Jeez. Uh, well, you know, I think there's going to be a good amount of tangents on this episode. We're going to have a good time. For people that might not be aware of Interpersonal, you guys are a loud rock band based out of St. Louis, Missouri. Um, you have some sick stuff out so far. I was kind of going through the discography. The self-titled EP came out in 2020. Followed it up with Intervisions in 2022, another EP. But we'll probably mainly talk about your latest full length, well, debut full length, I should say, The Long Bright Dark, which came out, what was it, October of 2024?
Yeah, October 22nd, I think.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's been out at this point for X, again, time's a construct, and I'm terrible at math, like 4 or 5 months or something like
yeah,
that. Like,
Yeah, couple months.
I kind of asked this question to kind of everybody, going from two EPs to a full length. Like, was there any like hesitation or like because I mean doing a full length can be kind of daunting with like having to supply so much more music, kind of have like more of a story to go with throughout the whole thing. Like, was there a hurdle at all to kind of go from an EP to a full length?
I don't think so. I think it kind of necessitated it. So like before that release, Jordan wasn't in the band, and so bringing Jordan into the band, obviously you bring with that a whole slew of like new music and new ideas and things like that. And at least from my perspective, when we were kind of going through a lot of the demos, it was like, well, I mean, like we have the songs here to do a full length. And we also kind of realized that we were switching styles and we kind of wanted something out that is a little bit more substantial where we're like, hey, this is the new sound, this is the direction we're going through or to, and this is kind of like a culmination of all of the newness that happened in the band because this is also the vocalist Lyle's first recordings that he's on for Interpersonal as well. So there's just a whole lot of new that felt like it necessitated coming out with something longer. I think coming out with like a 3-song EP would have been kind of like, all right, where are you guys at? Like, are you in a transition? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Because it would have
Yeah.
sounded vastly different. And I think because it's so different and we wanted something bigger that's like, this is kind of like the springboard point now, where it's like now we're talking about from here on, and we can kind of not put to bed, but be like there was like a phase before, and then with the new members and everything, like from here on. At least again, that was my perspective. I don't know if Jordan, you had another thought.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I came in after Intervisions. I joined at the end of 2022, I think, like November of 2022. And then we were still like playing shows off of like Intervision stuff. And when we went on our first tour on that, and then we were like kind of thinking, should we do an EP? Should we do something else? And once Lyle joined the band and we started talking about it more, and we looked at like our Google Drive, and there was like, 70 song ideas in there. I was like, okay, we can do a full length if we can whittle it down to the material that represents what we want to do. And I think Chris hit the nail on the head. It was like, we need to make like a definitive statement since this is like the new thing that we want to try and do, and hopefully people will dig it. So yeah, I don't think it was daunting except for the fact that we recorded all those songs in 4 days at the studio. That was the only daunting part. But luckily I mean, like hammered it out, and we were like, there was no issue, and we actually ended up. I think we ended early on the last day on vocal day, didn't we?
We did. We ended like 2 or 3 hours early.
Yeah, so like we were mad efficient, which is not always the case because we are the worst when it comes to getting things done at times, and we will do anything and talk about anything to not you make a decision.
100%.
But no, it just it seemed like a logical step. I don't think it felt like a hurdle. It was
Yeah.
like, this would be fun. Let's do it.
Right. Before I go on to my next question, I completely forgot to introduce the both of you. Like I said, I'm sitting down with Chris and Jordan from Interpersonal. Can you tell the people like what you do and who you are in Interpersonal?
Chris?
Oh yeah, I sorry. I was like, I was gonna let Jordan go first this time. No, I'm Chris. I play bass in Interpersonal, and now also foraying into like some backing vocals and stuff because we're trying to kind of expand that aspect. So I would say bass and backup vocals.
I'm Jordan. I play lead guitar for the most part. Lyle and I kind of swap on certain things, but mostly lead guitar and background vocals as well. And Lyle is our vocalist, and he plays rhythm guitar. And Aaron is the most amazing musician in the band, our quiet but funny drummer.
Well, like I normally say, this one goes out to those two for since they're not here with us today. That's where we pour one on their honor. By pour one out, I just mean we have a drink in their honor because we don't waste alcohol on this
Sure.
podcast.
Cheers.
So now to go kind of back into the LP, obviously it's a 10-track LP. Obviously, you said you had about like almost 70 song ideas in the Google Drive. Like when you went into the studio, did you guys go in with just like, okay, we have the 10 flushed out, we're just doing this, or were there a couple that just made it to the cutting room floor that didn't make it into this album?
No, it was pretty definitive track list going in. We like painstakingly took that process of like multiple rounds of like listening to demos and being like, this one's cool, it has some cool stuff, it's not quite there, or it just didn't fit the vibe. And also we just kind of painstakingly took to the seriousness of like the actual track listing. So then when it came to like the 10 songs that we were like, okay, this is an album. We're not going to deviate from this 10 songs. This is like, it's a little under half an hour. It begs for a re-listen. It's kind of like all these things were running through our mind. So we were like, it's going to be 10 songs. This will be perfect for like a release. We don't want to overstay our welcome for our first LP. And these are the songs that excite us the most at the time.
Yeah, I completely agree. It is LPs can be kind of difficult sometimes, especially when you get to like that 8 to 10 mark of like songs, and like 10 for this record is perfect. The song lengths are perfect. Where like you said, it's you get done with it and it's like okay, you kind of left wanting a little bit more, but it's super easy enough to just hit repeat and just kind of go through the record again. Where like I've listened to some LPs and they're like, you hit that 11 to 13 mark on like songs and you're like, oh man, do I really want to go through all of this again? Like I just spent 45 minutes. Like that's a good chunk of time. Like this is like a perfect LP record to kind of, like you said, like show what you guys are now and then leave them wanting more.
Yeah, and it helps that like we cover so much sonic ground on the record in those 10 songs that like that seems to be like one of the pieces of like feedback that we get is it's like, man, it felt like you guys did so much with that 29 minutes and 30 seconds. It was really like utilized well, and like it felt longer in the best way possible, which is awesome.
Yeah, this record is nice because it has like something for everyone. For people that like, like the heavier screams, it's in there. For people that like ambient noise, it's a little bit of stuff in there too. Like it bounces around and then has like this. And correct me if I'm wrong on butchering the story, but like there's some sort of storyline going on throughout this whole thing where with sound clips that kind of come in that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But like, I guess how did I want to word that? Like, what is the story behind it? Like, or are we just taking down a collection of songs that kind of thematically go together, or is there something I'm missing there?
I think thematically is kind of what we were going for. There's not as far as I know, unless Lyle's hidden it from us. There's not like a through line, like a story, like with a beginning, middle, end, like following characters or anything like that. The band itself has always, like in the reflection of the name, been about like the human condition and like what it means to have relationships with people and what it means for you to be in those relationships and things like that. And the our Intervisions came out I think, in March of 2020. So a lot has happened since then. And I think a lot of it was just like, okay, the human condition has kind of shifted or changed. And we were a lot more interested in, instead of looking at a lot of like, I would say more face value relationship things, like what it means to be in a relationship with like a significant other and what it means to have just friends, to now of like, oh, here's how the world is shaping like my conscious and how I approach relationships. So it tries to go a little bit deeper and a little bit more varied and a little bit more introspective, and like here's the situation I'm in as far as like the world, society, if you will, and kind of like what that means and what that does to a person. And Lyle obviously would be able to go a little bit deeper into like specifically, because a lot of it, some of the songs come directly from like his own experiences, and some are just a more general, like, mirror held up to the world, if you will. But yeah, I think we were mostly going for more thematic material rather than like a through line. Jordan, do you want to add?
Yeah, no, there's no narrative through line. However, the through line of like theme is definitely there, and like that was super intentional, like where each song lands. Um, and I mean, the title also is like reflective of what the album is about too. It's not just an homage to the pilot episode of season 1 of True Detective. It's also like the songs are about the long and bright, dark parts of life, basically. Whether that be, social relationships, personal relationships, mental health, or politics, war, things that we get into on some of on the tracks on the record.
And then, I mean, since you brought up True Detective, I know it's on my list to talk about some of these sound clips. Are all of these sound clips from True Detective, or what are they all
No,
like from? Because I know that there's a sound clip in, and I kind of made a note. There's Washington has like a sound clip. Alabaster has that like intro sound clip. And I think there is one in like the title track, the Long Bright Dark,
yeah,
somewhere in there.
Washington is one from the Never Ending Story.
Oh, okay, I thought that was
And
it. I wasn't sure.
it was like a perfect way for like to transition from Washington, which is like a really good intro into like it's a little bit of our old sound, and then it's gonna be like, okay, Become Death is next, and it's a pretty big whiplash. So that's like kind of like the in the beginning it was always dark to kind of like weave you into the title of the record and like what you're gonna be facing. The title track one at the end is from True Detective.
Okay.
It's from actually the very last scene of the last episode. Alabasters is Donnie Darko, and
Mm.
then there's a multitude of ones on Seconds, Minutes, Hours. I think it's like Casablanca, Green Mile, Star Trek Generations.
Blade Runner.
Oh yeah, Blade Runner. I think that might be it actually.
It might be it. I
But
think
yeah,
that might be it. There might be
yeah,
one that I'm missing, but
I think out of a lot of the bands that I've talked to recently that do sound clips, which as I've expressed on a lot of episodes, like I love when bands do that. I think you guys are in the lead right now for the amount of sound clips and references you guys have in there.
and we're not
Um,
even a hardcore band.
how hard is it to like think of like when to use it? And like, do you guys have like a Google Drive just filled with like, okay, these are all potential sound clips, and like using it in the like, when do you know that it's the right time to use it?
It's hard. It's a hard question to answer because I don't know sometimes. Sometimes it just feels right.
Yeah.
yeah, I think the one in Washington and the Long Bright Dark, I think we already always knew that those were going to be there. And
Yeah, they're like
specifically those
bookends.
two, because yeah, they're like bookends. Alabaster, I think, was just a coolness factor, if I remember correctly. Like we have the beginning of that song, and there's a whole lot of empty space where there are no vocals. And it might have been Lyle's. I don't remember whose idea it was, but we were originally going to try to do some like old sound clips of like a psychology lecture or something from like the 40s 50s and then finding something that was like respectful obviously to the times. There was like a lot of weird stuff going on with psychology and stuff in the 50s. We decided to go something a little bit more pop culture, and somebody had the idea of Donnie Darko because it kind of still has similar themes without while being a piece of fiction. And then I think Seconds, Minutes, Hours was just a necessity thing because we obviously we have a couple of interludes on the album, and that one the music was kind of coming together, but it just felt like it was missing something. And that was actually a collaboration between Jordan and myself. I was kind of sending him some of the music ideas, and he was like, "What if we do this?" And he sent back that with like a lot of those sound clips, and I think immediately I was like, That's the vibe that I want to go for." And they're all thematically kind of teamed together, or thematically similar, like the passage of time and like what that means and all that kind of stuff, and being tired just in general about the world and stuff like that. So it all kind of came together. So I feel like every sound clip kind of served different purpose, like when we were
Hmm.
coming up with it. As far as whether or not that's too many, I don't know. I grew up in the 2008 metalcore scene where there was a track on everything and all that good stuff. So I don't think it's too many.
No, I don't think it's too many either. Because like I remember, um, they don't have it up in this version anymore. But I think it was like one of Free Throw's early EPs. Like they had a
Yeah,
sound clip almost at like the beginning of every song on the EP, and I think
yeah.
maybe on the outro of each song too. Like it was a lot. And even that I felt like worked, but I don't think I've ever found one that had at this point has had like an overdoing of it. I could see it maybe in a hardcore band if like each song's like 60 seconds to like 45 seconds long, and you got a sound clip that's longer than the song itself,
Yeah.
maybe. But I think the amount that you have in here is like a great amount, especially because like with the ones that are in seconds, minutes, hours, they flow so well where you don't really realize that it's like all from different things. You just kind of like they kind of like fade in the right way where you're just like you're going for like this ride and like just get the feeling of like space, time, all that continuum at the same aspect.
Yeah, those were I think the uses of the ones on that song and then Alabaster more than anything. Like obviously there was theme and purpose for them, but I think a lot of it was like textural to like accompany the music more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like the obviously the bookended ones on Washington and Long Bright Dark are very purposeful and thematic, but yeah, I think like using them texturally to where it's like a part of the fabric of the song is fun and interesting and also hard too.
Yeah, I commend every band when they like can figure that out because you see the guys on TikTok that'll like take a scene from anything and just like kind of overlay like those emo twinkly riffs and just like make it work. And I'm just like, dude, I would like have if I could do that, I would have like so many hard drives just filled of like just bullshit all the time of just like, okay, this could work, this could work. So like to pull it off and like actually have it come across like how you want it to is such a good flex.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh, Along with this album, you guys have two music videos out so far. One for Spirals and then one for Alabaster, like we were talking about. I mainly want to talk about Spirals because that one's got like this, you know, Bonnie and Clyde like love story going on. But as I'm watching it, I kind of realized that like they're not in the U.S. Like they're for sure in like the UK or somewhere over there. Like
It's
how did
Eastern
that?
European.
Yeah.
European.
Like so how did that come about where you have these actors performing this for you know you guys in St. Louis for your music video?
I hate to break the illusion, but it is actually a production company that builds out like royalty-free footage for like commercial and like artistic use.
Okay.
Like, and we happen to like find it, the both of the music videos are from the same production company because we were like, okay, there's like a weird feeling to both of these because it's very clearly not now in the US and it kind of gives it like a little bit of a timeless feel. So that was all Lyle. I mean, he found those and he was like, I have an idea. Stay with me on this one.
That's actually pretty cool because like I never knew that. Like obviously we know about like the royalty free music that you can get for like your videos or what all that fun stuff. But like that there's a company out there that kind of does royalty free and
Mhm.
kind of lets you kind of run away with it at the same time and like kind of do your own take on it. Like that's kind of cool. Like
Yeah.
not a lot. I don't think a lot of people know about that.
I think it was just kind of serendipitous that both of those shoots that they did matched the songs perfectly.
Yeah.
As far as feel.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah. I mean, they both work perfect, like great. I just yeah when it like when you realized more, especially on like the Spirals one when it's like Eastern Europe, I was like, just how does this connection happen? Um, so do they basically just like have the full thing and you kind of just like snip it down to like what you want to use for the video?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, because it's been a minute now, but they have like hundreds of different shoots that they've done, um, and some of them are to varying degrees of quality or like able to be used for stuff like this. Um, but I think if I remember correctly, it was like a collection of like thousands of shots, like
Yeah.
in like
They
a
have
folder or something.
Yeah, they have like different shoots, and then within those shoots, they have like just shots. So like it'll just be like the camera panning across her face left to right. And so Lyle like went through, and I assume whenever he was looking at him, you can kind of like infer a storyline that like the whoever directed it like had in their mind. But Lyle did go through and like find all of these cuts and like put them together and like made them tell that story. So it wasn't like a like a 3 minute like stock video that we kind of slap music over. It was still like something that and Lyle's really great at this too, that he had to go through and like craft from these shots, because like yeah, like Jordan said, it was just like a folder of shots from that shoot, and you have to kind of put them together and use them how you will.
That's such a cool way too, because like then all these shots can be out in the world, and you can have like multiple different versions of like that same
Yeah.
story. So like that's, oh man, that's such badass.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and like shout out to Lyle for like being able to sit through that and like find all the right shots that work and everything. Like that's so sick.
Luckily, he and I both went to film school, but he actually uses his degree and he does it for his job. So he is much faster and much more efficient at that stuff than the rest of us. So he's like really good at it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and then the one for Alabaster, like that one fits like very well in that video, even though it's just like mainly just like the shots on that character, or like on the couch. Like it works for that with that minimalist somehow.
Yeah. And it works with like
feels
the interstitials too, because it's about dissociation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the weirder the song gets, the weirder the video gets.
Yeah, it feels like a state of mind, like the music
Yeah.
video does. Which I
Yeah.
thought, like the first time I saw it, I was like, "Yo," because that was kind of that one got done first, and
Mhm.
Lyle sent that as kind of like a proof of concept. He did like the first like 15 seconds, and I was immediately like, "Yes, like this is amazing. This is great." Because while the I do think the Spiral video fits, I think the Alabaster one like looks like it was shot for that song. Like in my
Yeah.
brain, I'm like, I can see that like actually being something where they were like playing the song in the background, and it's like, look over here and kind of like look off into the distance and stuff. So I love that one a lot. But yeah, I it's that one I think is also like super popular from the people I've talked to as well, just because it forces them to ask questions, kind of like your thought of like the Eastern European thing. I had a lot of people who picked up on that from the Alabaster one, and they're like, "Do you know these people?" 'Cause just based on like the haircut, it's
Yeah.
of the actress. It's like I don't know if she's American, but no, I mean it all came together super great, and yeah, if people don't know about it, I'm not 100% sure on like the specifics of like how you go about using it and things like that. But there is that resource out there, and you can come up with some super cool products with that.
Yeah, I think the sourcing site is called like Pexels or something like that.
Okay.
Not
I don't.
sponsored, Pexels.
Yeah, I don't recall the name of the production company, but yeah, I mean, if you search around long enough, you'll find it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
Right.
kind
that's
of we
very
kind
cool.
of did it on accident.
Well, because like at first, like you mentioned, Chris, like people were asking if you knew those people, and like I almost thought like maybe there's some sort of connection, because I remember it's been a long time, not to fully name drop, but I'm going to do it. But when I had Arms Length on the podcast, their music videos were all shot in like Chicago, and I'm like, you guys are in like the Toronto area. Like, are you guys like driving down and shooting these videos? They're like, no, we know people like that has like a production company, like they're friends of ours, so we kind of come up with a concept together, and then they kind of shoot it, and then like we just put our music in and like do our shots or whatever. And
Yeah.
so I didn't know if it was something similar where you guys just happen to have like friends that live in Eastern Europe that would like record a music video for you.
No, that'd be sick.
No, we do have a friend in Norway, but not Eastern Europe.
Yeah. Also, it's sick that you mentioned Arm's Length. I saw them like a couple of weeks ago at the pageant here, and they were fantastic.
Yeah, I finally get to see them this year because they're finally coming to Minneapolis, since they've like all these U.S. runs that they've done. They've never come to Minneapolis, but this is the first time they are. So I'm really stoked to finally see them in person.
Is it the Silverstein tour, or is it something
No,
else?
they're doing they're putting out a new record in like May, so they're doing like another headline tour.
Sweet, very cool, nice.
And then one other cool thing with this record that I'd be remiss if I left it out is on this track number 9, Loss. You work with the punk cellist, which is always nice seeing them pop up on different records. How did that like connection happen, and like when did you like one, how did the connection happen, and then how did you decide that Lost was going to be the one to like kind of tie you guys together?
Yeah, so it kind of happened in reverse order. So whenever we were coming up with the idea for the album, I think we were maybe a little bit nervous that maybe even 10 songs was like a little bit too much. So we kind of like met in the middle and we were like, let's do a couple of interludes. I was like a very big fan of that from day one, and I'm still thankful to this day that everybody else was like on board with that. Because I had like Chiodo's "All's Well That Ends Well" in my brain, where it's just like randomly there's just a track of like an organ playing for like a minute and a half, and then we just go back right into the songs. Um, so I wanted to write an interlude, and I was like, well, I want to write like a cello piece because I think cello is like one of the most beautiful instruments ever. So I wrote like a cello and a piano part. I have a pretty good MIDI cello sound, but it's not perfect. So I was like, I want to have a real cello player on this, and I ran it past the band. Everybody was cool with it. And I actually just put it out on like our social. I was like, "Hey, does anybody know like a cello player?" And it was actually Wes Hoffman, to kind of bring it full circle. That was like, "Hey, this is a guy that we've used on recording before." And I reached out, and he was like, "Yeah, send it over. I'll take a listen." And I sent over like just a MIDI track, and he was like, "Yeah, this is great. I'll record it." And it came out amazing, and I'm
Yeah.
so thankful that he played on it for us.
Yeah, it sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's so good. Much better than MIDI cello. I feel like no matter how good it is, I feel like you can always tell. So I was like, let's just do it. We're doing a full length. Let's get a real cello player.
He was super easy to work with too.
Oh yeah, he sent me like a
Nice.
couple of takes and was like, take your pick, and man, it was great.
Hell yeah! Like I always love when there's like horns incorporated in like punk and emo music, but to have that style of set of strings on your record and like have it like come out well is always like a just as cool to me as like just having like a sick like trumpet solo out of nowhere
Yeah.
that like underlays through there. So like like I'm stoked that I saw they were on this as well.
Yeah, yeah, it was a great experience, and I'm glad it came together too. Because it's a little bit different, obviously, than the stuff we've done, but I think thematically it worked, and also, it was like a personal pet project of mine within the album. I was like, I want this, and I sent it to everybody, and they were happy with it, and yeah, I'm glad it came out as well as it did because it means a lot to me for sure.
It's also a perfect transition from like Out of Time to the Long Bright Dark. I mean, well, you can talk about it, or not Long Bright Dark, Donna Lee to Long Bright Dark. I
Mhm.
mean, you can talk about that, Chris, because like there's like pieces that interweave songs or like repeat in other songs that kind of tie stuff together.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to. So I have like prog metal like roots, and I'm like, it's super cool when there's like a theme and it's like on track one, like big opening, and then on like track six or something, there's like a slow version, and you're like listening to it, and you're like, that's the same thing. It's just like in the piano now instead of like all guitars and like big and bombastic. So the chord progression of Lost, like the very first chord progression is the same chord progression as in The Long Bright Dark. When we go into that bridge and there's all of the gang vocals, there's like a held out chord, and then when it like gets really big and we start like chugging those chords, that chord progression is the same one as the one in Lost. And thematically, to Jordan's point, it kind of bridges that gap between like Donnelly is a reminiscent song. It's about Lyle's time in college. There's just a specific housing situation he had, and that song is basically about that. And that kind of transitions into Lost, where it's more of like just the sadness that comes with like nostalgia, I guess. And the song itself was written actually for my grandmother, who passed away like right around that time. Not to bring the entire mood of the podcast down, but so it was kind of just like sadness, and that was like the idea behind it, and it kind of works really well in this transition of like, man, I remember those times, like that was crazy, and then it's like, damn, I'm never gonna get those times back, and then like into Long Bright Dark and out, and so yeah, I wanted to like reuse some chords and thematic material because you have that familiarity in your brain of like, again, if we're going with like themes of nostalgia and things like that, obviously it makes sense to play the same thing twice just in a slightly different way. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with it because I was like, when you're doing a full length, you have more freedom to do that kind of stuff, like where songs bleed right into the next one, and there's like overarching themes, whereas like an EP, I feel you're more just like these are our heaviest hitters that we've written. So it was super cool. It was a super cool experience, and I had a lot of fun kind of connecting those dots and like bridging the gap. And like even like Donna Lee like ending on this big chord that is like the 5 chord of Lost, just like literally like 5-1, like we're back in this song now, and it I don't know. I just had a lot of fun with it, and I had like a lot of fun like nerding out with like music theory stuff with it. So
And the outro, the clean guitar outro of Alabaster is the chord progression of Seconds, Minutes, Hours too, which is another cool
yeah,
riff.
the other interlude that has like the piano, those 2 chords that kind of like go back and forth between the piano. Jordan, yeah, plays that clean guitar part at the end of Alabaster, and those are the same 2 chords as well. So again, yeah, just reusing those materials to kind of bring some of that familiarity and just highlight a really cool chord progression. Something that sounds really cool.
I love that you guys nerd out about that and like want to include all that like little introspective stuff because like I feel like most bands have just been like, oh, just like we'll just write something different for like this song and like just try and like get it to still feel the same, but to like take something and just kind of like rework it and just like either slow it down or just kind of change it a little bit so it still clicks in the back of someone's mind of like I feel like I've listened to this already in an aspect like that's cool to like geek out on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
in a
super
way,
fun
it's
to
kind
do.
of for us, but it does
Right.
give the listener something, obviously,
Yeah,
But it's like more of a subconscious thing.
yeah,
Yeah. Like by the time they get to like that, because like I always say that like the first 3 to 4 listens, you're just kind of getting through the instrumentals. 5 to 6, 5 to 7 is when like the lyrics really start to click. But by the time all of that has clicked, and you get to like that 8 to 10, like that's when they'll start to like that subconscious of like, oh, I feel like I've heard that somewhere else, and then like they can dive, like their mind opens up more and like can dive a little bit deeper. Like
yeah.
that's how I
Yeah, to
geek out
Jordan's
on it.
point, it like begs for repeat listens. We were like, I swear, like that was in one of these other songs or something like that, or even just like Jordan's point, like the subconscious feeling of like, especially with like the bridge of the Long Bright Dark or the chord progression of Lost. Like it's such a weird chord progression. Like there's chords in there that like aren't in that key. So when you hear stuff like that, you're like, oh, that's different. Wait, I feel like I've heard that before. So yeah, it was intentional. It's just fun to do. Like Jordan said,
Mhm.
like even if nobody ever notices it organically and it's just me talking about it on every podcast or conversation that we have, I think it's a lot of fun when bands do that kind of stuff. And like I said, it's the prog in me where it's like we're gonna do every permutation of this that we can do. So for sure.
uh you know like I kind of said, the Long Bright Dark has been it is such a solid LP and like great chapter, like starting chapter into like this new book of Interpersonal and like the where you guys are going from now. If people are just now finding it, like don't feel like you're missing out because I know there is some stuff in the wheelhouse for hopefully this future later this year, like some more singles, possibly some possible EPs if I remember correctly. um do you like what how much can without giving too much away, obviously because they're still getting worked out and stuff like that, but like how much of that stuff are you guys wanting to talk about?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay. Yeah. The idea is, I mean, like, pretty much because the album process was so long, there were songs that we wrote like within like a couple of weeks leading up to the studio where like, man, I wish we could put this on the record. Like, this is really cool. And so we just started like compiling and stockpiling those ideas. And we ended up with again like a Google Drive folder of like far too many ideas that we needed to actually sit down and weed through. So we kind of had the idea. I think it was Lyle's idea, that we would do like maybe like a handful of like mini EPs of like 2 to 3, 3 to 4 songs of like songs that kind of work together, almost like in a way like Thrice's The Alchemy Index or My Chemical Romance's Conventional Weapons, where it's like you can put all these songs together as like a full LP, and there's like little bits of things. Like it gives us a little bit of freedom to like experiment a little bit, but it's not going to be like, obviously to the extent that the Alchemy Index did. We're not going to have like an electronic EP and then a folk one, but it allows us to kind of like group some ideas that we're interested in and excited about, and they'll actually like work. So we're working on those right now. We have a couple that we're really excited about that I think will make onto the first one. It's just a matter of getting those ready.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think to Jordan's point, like we're in like the planning stages. Like we're kind of sifting through the ideas that we have similarly when we were working on Long Bright Dark, and we're just finding like, the best of the best, the cream of the crop. Like this song like makes me feel something. Let's explore this one, and kind of picking through all those ideas and finding out what works. And to Jordan's point, like we will continue like exploring a lot of those different ideas that we have, and not pigeonholing ourselves into like one specific genre, but from an organizational perspective, yeah, like if we got songs that have like more of like a western twang to it, or like more of like a really fuzzed out like hard rock, like we can kind of group some of these songs together so that you remove some of that whiplash that you get from the Long Bright Dark, in case there's somebody who's not a fan of it, or it just helps when you have smaller releases, because the Long Bright Dark, there's just so much different stuff that becomes its identity. I feel like when you strip it down to like a 3 or 4 song EP, if you have like 4 very different songs, that's when I feel like whiplash can kind of be a negative thing, in my own personal opinion. So yeah, I mean, we don't have any like planned releases yet. We have like an idea as like when we want to release, which I won't say just in case something happens that doesn't work out. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's where we're at right now. We have this like fountain of creativity, especially now with Lyle joining in as rhythm guitar player. He's got even more songs now and more ideas that he's wanting to bring. So it's a matter of having too many ideas now. And so we're just going through and like Jordan said, figuring out what makes us the most excited.
Uh, yeah, no, I'm stoked to see what like these songs are going to be like. I know, like that's kind of one of the toughest things with bands with their releases is like obviously, like you said, going into the studio, you had already kind of come up with these new songs, but you have to kind of sit on them for even longer because you still have to sit on the record. Like I can remember who I mentioned it to. I was like, I sit on episodes for like a month. I can't imagine sitting on like a whole record for like 6 months to a year of just being like, can't put this out yet, and then you put it out and you're like, we're like, as much as we love it, we're also kind of over it. We're ready to play these new songs or start working on these new songs, and like I can't imagine like going through that.
It's tough.
It is really tough.
It's tough. We recorded the record in May and put it out in October. So, and all
Yeah.
of those songs had been written except for Become Death. That was written like 2 weeks before we went to the studio, but everything else had been done, I mean, months and months before. Some of
Yeah.
them maybe a year before.
I was gonna say some of those are like a year or 2 year old ideas that we kind of like brought back forth, and we were like, no, this is great, and like finished it up. So yeah, it's hard because now we're at that point where like the record has been out not for an extremely long time, but it's been out, and we're like, when do you release more music? Because you want that one to have time to breathe, but also like as an artist, you're like, we've gotten some positive feedback on it, and you're like, all right, well let's do more of that. Like this is great. Like I want to explore those ideas that people liked more. Because it's not stuff that we've done, except for the Long Bright Dark. So yeah, it's tough juggling those two things. I mean, like I want to release, but also, like want to give respect to Long Bright Dark and not just immediately be like, all right, we're not playing those songs. We got all new songs now, like the second the album comes out. So for sure.
Yeah, I think the idea too is just to try and get the Long Bright Dark in front of as many people as we can till those new songs are out. Because I mean, we've been very lucky that it has found some people that hadn't found us before, so that's very cool. And then we put the tape out with that Violet Hour Transmissions, and I mean, it sold out except for the handful of copies we have that we'll be selling this coming weekend. It sold out in less than a week, so it was like, okay, clearly some people are hearing it. and we're
Right.
doing something right. Because initially we are kind of worried, like, are people going to enjoy this, or like, I don't know, who knows? We like it, but you
Yeah.
know. So just try and get it in front of as many people as possible, and then like pepper in some of the new stuff once we get it to a point where we feel like we can actually play it live. That'll be
Okay.
kind of cool, because then people will be like, "What is this?" Like, this
Mhm.
isn't on the Long Bright Dark, and it certainly isn't on Intervisions or Interpersonal EP.
Yeah, yeah. I was happy to see or and hear that like the tape run sold out, and that you guys are going to be doing another tape run here. You know, again, times construct, so sometime this spring. Um,
Yeah, I think
and
April or
then
May.
okay, um, and then since you kind of hinted on it, the next week thing that you're talking about is 314 Punk Fest, which is a nice 3 day thing that is going on down in St. Louis. I think there's a what is it, an emo day? There's a because it's split up by like three different not genres construct, but like genres theoretically,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's the hardcore night. There's a punk night, which is kind of encompassing punk and pop punk, and then there's an emo night, which is kind of emo, post-hardcore, that kind of stuff, like where we would, comfortably fit.
Right.
And we're playing on that third night. But Chris is also playing the first night in his other band, Maladjust.
Yeah, I'll be playing the hardcore night and the emo night. I'm very excited. It's so cool that Wes was like able to put something like that together because to the point of like us when we were like first hopping on the call, like St. Louis has so many great bands, and I do feel like St. Louis is looked over sometimes just because we're surrounded by a lot of other really great cities. So in the Midwest, you kind of have to choose sometimes. But it's nice that we have like a weekend that's dedicated to like all of the talent that's in St. Louis, and I mean, there are like really heavy hitters like on all of those nights. So like
Yeah.
it's something that I'm very excited to be a part of.
And excitedly, it seems like there's going to be a lot of people there every single night. I mean,
Mhm.
I think like within 2 weeks, the full weekend passes were all sold out.
Oh, that's
And then
awesome.
like I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, there's like maybe 9 tickets left to the punk night, and there's like all the other shows are damn near close to selling out too. So it'll be super cool. And like my biggest hope is there's a lot of young kids there who haven't like had a ton of exposure to like the local or DIY scene, that will then fall in love with it and then start bands and then be that next crop of like really cool St. Louis bands, or people who have not really had any interest and they're like, you know what, we should check out some stuff from St. Louis, and then they're just like, I had no idea this was going on. That's also equally as cool.
Yeah. Because like how is it like with local shows? Because I know here in Minneapolis, like we have shows going on all the time, and like you'll go to a show and there'll be like a handful. I mean, to me, they're all younger kids because I'm 32 and I feel old at most of these shows now. But like there'll be like a handful of like these younger kids there that you see, and it's nice just seeing them come out whether they know the band or not, just to like experience the music and like kind of like just go to as many shows as they can. Like, is St. Louis kind of the same way with like this more like up and coming uh listeners and like showgoers?
Yeah, I think so. I think specifically in specific genres, we're seeing it a lot. And so now, and the great thing about things like 314 Punk, like that weekend, is a diversification of like what people normally listen to. So like the hardcore scene in St. Louis is massive, and it is like all kids under 20, and then like a lot of old heads like me, that are in like 30s, like late 30s, stuff like that. You're seeing that more now with like into the pop punk and emo crowd, because for one, you have a lot of people who are in multiple bands, and so like you just have that in of like, oh, I know that those people, like I'm following them on social media, oh, that's their other band, let me go check them out.
Yeah.
And it just, it's like there's no fat on that show. So it's like if you want to get an idea of like what the St. Louis emo scene is like, here are all the heaviest hitters right here. Like here's everybody you should be paying attention to. Not everyone, because obviously you got to cut it off at some point. But here are a lot of bands who've been doing this for like a minute, in the scene, and bands that like are namesakes, if you will, in like the St. Louis local scene. So yeah, it's about, I think, taking where people are naturally inclined to go, like if you like hardcore music or if you like emo music, and just finding ways either through like mixed bills or like fests like this to put other stuff in front of them. They're like, oh, this is super sick. And then you got a lifer, you got somebody who's like going to multiple shows a month, and then yeah, once they get curious enough, it's like, well, let me start something. And then, like Jordan said, there's the next band. And then, like I said, you see it a lot in hardcore in St. Louis, because there's just bands of like all 18, 19 year olds and stuff like that. So yeah, it's young, alive, and well, and it's about, like I said, getting them in front of bands they haven't seen. So
Yeah, it's weird because like I would say maybe like pre-COVID, you kind of never knew what you were gonna get when you
Hmm.
did play an all local show. I mean, my band before I joined the Interpersonal, Chris actually played a show with us, and so did Aaron. So technically, there's some members of both bands, but like it would be like, hey, we played to 40 people that night. We played to five. We played to our girlfriends and the other bands. And then that one red flag show, there was like 300 people there. So it was like, I never know what to guess. And then COVID happened. And I think there has been like a little bit of a, man, I really miss this. And then obviously also there's the time aspect of it where it's like these kids who are getting into music and at that like age where you're like, I'm finding the stuff that's gonna like mean something to me for the rest of my life. They're like, I need to check out bands in the area. So you're seeing like all of those people come and it's so cool. And with the hardcore scene, there's like a lot of like really strong micro scenes surrounding us that all like make the commute regularly to St. Louis shows, and then that will like make commutes to like Springfield is the big one. Springfield, Illinois, the
yep,
Dumb Record shows are
both
packed every
Springfields.
time. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Springfield, Missouri too is
Yeah,
pretty happening too. But so you'll see those kids at St. Louis shows. I mean, they'll drive hours to come to them.
yeah,
It's really cool.
they'll hop
It's
in a little
really cool.
convoy and they'll all ride in the same car together. It's so cool.
Yeah.
What's sick? Besides 31, Punk 314 Fest, like, where is anyone going to be able to see you like outside of the cities this year?
We have some plans. Uh, don't want to say too much yet. I mean, last year we were lucky enough to do a little mini run throughout Illinois. We played Downers Grove, which is like a suburb of Chicago, and we played Jacksonville, Illinois, at a really cool record store called Pizza Records, and then we played a cool house show in Carbondale. We made some friends at the Pizza Records show in the band Glittermouth. They're from Peoria, and some of those guys are hardcore lifers. Chris Bayless has been in a bunch of cool hardcore bands, Church Key and or not Church Key, Ghost Key, and Blistered Spirit, and Austin's been in a bunch of bands too. So we're talking to them, and we might try and do something up in Illinois again. And we the constant conversation is we got to get over to Kansas City because we have a bunch of family in Kansas City, and like we also do have some friends in Kansas City. So it's like, why haven't we done that yet? Like we kind of already have a built-in audience, so we just need to make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, well, everyone keep an eye out for those possible dates. We'll talk socials here in a little bit. Um, I know we've jumped around a lot between interpersonal, the long, bright, dark, and like what's upcoming music wise. But is there anything that I might have missed that you want the people to know about?
Um, Only thing I do want to say is I on the Long Bright Dark the song, we did have some guest vocalists. And I would be remiss to not talk about them. Brennan, the vocalist from Squint, he actually in this room that I'm sitting in, he recorded his vocals because Squint was going to be on tour when we went in the studio. So he came over while me and Lyle and Chris were doing a writing session, and he was like, "Yeah, man, show me some stuff." And then he worked on the part with us, and he recorded his vocals into that microphone sitting over there, and we kind of gave them to Gabe, and so Squint is like a really big band for us. So it was cool to have Brennan on, and Brennan's a cool guy. I mean, he's a friend of ours. And I know you just did an episode with Squint, so that was cool. Adrian from Fight Back Mountain, another really cool band in the area. He was on it. Avery, who she runs Ransomware Studios. She films a lot of sets in the area between St. Louis and Springfield, and she's also plays guitar in a hardcore band called Cause of Pain.
Okay.
Our buddy Mike from I Like Snaps, who we actually went on that tour last year with. They're a sad dad emo band, very very emo. Um, so yeah, and then Ben Johnson from a newer pop punk band called Family Money was on the track as well. So there's some bands that people have to check out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll add them to my list to check out. Everyone, please do so as well. Yeah, getting to sit down with Brennan and talk about Squint was really cool, and to see like just the influence that they kind of have in that in your guys. I want to say Twin Cities scene, but it's not. It's the St. Louis scene. It is really cool, just because like when I dropped that, I think Interest from Glory even was like, holy shit, like they were stoked to see Squint on, and like that's you guys responded after that, like, so it's really cool to see like that I got to sit down with this like someone that you guys all really respect down in your scene.
They're the band, in my opinion. I mean, like, there's a lot of bands that I really love from St. Louis. Dialogue, Portraits and Landscapes. I mean, like ones that we've like become really close with. But like Squint, in my opinion, is just like the coolest band. They're just like it's so cool, and they may happen to make awesome music, and also they're really good dudes.
That's what matters. Like they could put out like even like decent music, but to like still be good dudes and like the scene and like support everyone, like that's means a lot. And then on top of it, that they put out good
Exactly.
shit, like it's like okay, like hell yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah. Now we're gonna start to transition in this episode. This is where we, this is obviously beers with bands. So you don't have to be drinking on these episodes. Cause I'll definitely do that for you. But I know the two of you have some beverages in front of you on this fine Sunday. What are you all drinking?
Chris, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Golden Road Brewing. It's the Ride On West Coast IPA.
Oh,
Not a huge IPA guy, honestly, but I do love Golden Road. A lot of people might be familiar with the Mango Cart. That's probably like their most like familiar one.
so good.
But yeah, this past like summer they put out like a multi-pack of like a bunch of IPAs from like the West Coast, and this is my favorite one out of there. So yeah, Golden Road.
Um, I'm drinking a Stone
FML.
FML, which apparently stands for Fear Movie Lions. Hazy double IPA, and it's got the devil on it, so it looks cool.
Yeah.
Nice. And then normally I would have a good old probably hams sitting in front of me, but this episode I'm drinking some garage beers.
Oh yeah, the Travis Kelsey and
Yeah.
Jason Kelsey beer.
Yeah, I figured I'd pick it up to see what it's all about. I mean, it's okay. It's only 4%, which is kind of
Mm.
but it's fine. It's a nice light beer. Gets me
Yeah.
through this.
As a non-Chiefs fan, I can't co-sign it, but you know what? It's cool.
And see, I found out about garage beer before the Kelseys like endorsed it, because like I think if I remember correctly, and I could be completely wrong, but like Richard Rollins from Gas Monkey Garage, like Fast and Loud. I don't know if you guys remember that show. They're like a mechanic shop in like Texas. They had a show
Oh,
on the
okay,
Discovery
yeah.
Channel.
Mhm.
Like he promoted this beer a lot, so I think like he started it or is like a investor in the company or something. And then like recently, the Kelsey brothers are like now like the face of it.
Yeah. I will say if Josh Allen comes out with a beer, that's what I'll be drinking.
It's fair. I didn't really pay attention much to the season. I figured I knew how what the book was gonna say, since it's scripted
Yeah.
and shit. You know what people say.
It was my least favorite Super Bowl to watch, I can say that.
I don't know. It was pretty nice not watching the Chiefs win. So
That is cool, but I also don't like Philadelphia.
yeah,
It's the lesser of two evils at this point.
It is, yeah. That is
Try
true.
to take what you can get.
yeah. that was a whole game. It was just kind of crazy, just like how like it didn't even seem like they came prepared. Like they were just like in that mindset of like we got this and everything. And like I don't think Travis had like a catch until like the third quarter or some shit like that.
Yeah, he had
Which
one
was
drop
great.
pass in the second
Yeah.
quarter, and
It
he
was
had so many
wild.
like blown blocks. It was crazy.
Yeah. I was like
They,
checking in on it, and it was like halftime. It was 24-0, and I was like, "Oh,
they look
oh, that's not
fraudulent.
what I thought that was gonna say at all."
Fraudulent.
Yeah,
Someone posted like footage of like I think Patrick like mic'd up and like trying to say, like it seemed like a straight like they were trying to make a documentary already of like they were down 24-0 and it's like we still got this, like we can come back from this, guys, like don't give up, don't give up. And like just to watch it now after they still like lost, like yeah, they came back with a few points, but like just to still lose, it's like okay, that footage is pretty much useless.
yeah.
Except for me to watch and smile at.
And then I think I saw something too of like all the three-peat shirts getting sent to like Ukraine already.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
It's so funny.
Yeah. But enough sports. That's
Yeah.
not the kind of podcast I run here. I'd be out of business real fast. But this is kind of where we get into the later half of these episodes where we talk about some fun stories from guys' time music, whether they're shows, tours, time recording, music videos. As I normally say, these can be anything horrendous or tremendous or any adjective in between. The way I like to think about it is the stories you always reminisce about with your friends. Those are usually the stories that everyone loves to hear.
Man, we are not short on stories. Just kind of depends on what you want to hear. I feel like every tour is a story in and of itself with like 1,000 funny little things that happen to us.
Mm. Well, I mean, we can always start at some of the worst things that have happened to you guys on tour, and then
So
bridge that gap to the good things.
we once accidentally ended up in Christopher, Illinois.
Yeah.
So it was a house show. So we were supposed to be going to Carbondale, and I guess we won't go into like super details, but somebody put in the GPS wrong or something like that. But yeah, so we were so nervous. No offense to Christopher, Illinois. I don't know anybody there. I'm sure there's great people there, but we roll up and we're like going to this address, and it was rough. It was like not a very good neighborhood. And there were people like passed out on their front porch. And this was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And we all got really nervous because we like pulled up to this house and there was not a soul in sight. And the house barely looked like it was standing on its own. And
Yeah, it was like a
we were,
house trailer.
it was like a house, yeah. And we were like, this can't be right. And we were like, should we cancel? Like, what? We got to find some way to not have this happen to us. And then we found out we were just in the wrong city. So that one's a lot of fun. We bypassed a whole city, and ended up in the boonies somewhere.
Luckily, it was like on the way to Carbondale, and it all
Yeah.
worked itself out. We went and got tacos, and we were still early.
Yeah, the tacos were great. I got a little nervous though, not gonna lie.
Yeah, because we had there's a girl in Kentucky who somehow saw, I forget what the situation was. She did see us in St. Louis, and she like became like a really big fan. And apparently Paducah is not that far from Carbondale, so she was like, "Oh, me and my sister are gonna come see you guys." And we rolled up, and we were like, "We got to call her and
We
tell
gotta
her
be like,
you
don't come.
can't come to this because
Yeah.
you're never gonna listen to us ever again."
Yeah. There
In
was like
fact,
no
I don't think I'm gonna
entrance.
listen to us ever again if we do this.
Yeah, there was like only a front door. It didn't look like there was a basement or anything. It's
Yeah.
like what? And again, there's like no cars, no trailers, like nothing. And I was
Yeah. Everything was like
so sad.
overgrown and like dilapidated, and we were
Yeah.
like, "This is not good, guys."
Yeah.
Oh god.
Like, how did we end up here? No, that's great. I mean, positive. There's this great pizza place. These are like the main. This is the main story I was thinking about. Great pizza place called Futuro. I guess it's not really a story, just a shout out mixed in with a story. They're called Futuro, and they're in Indianapolis. And we will go out of our way to go to Indianapolis every time we go on tour because their pizza is fantastic.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I forget. I think it was Aaron's idea when the first time we went, and yeah, he was like, "We should just go to this pizza place," and we drove like a little bit to get there, and it was great. And then the last time we went, we drove like 20 minutes out of our way to go there. We like left the venue that we were at to like
We
drive 20
unhitched the
minutes.
trailer and we were like,
Yeah, we
bye, we're
unhitched the
gonna go get
trailer.
food.
Yeah, we came back to the house show with just like a bunch of pizza. It was a great time.
It's like
There's
Detroit style pizza, but
oh,
it's
nice.
the best Detroit style pizza you'll ever have. It's
Okay.
unbelievable.
It's so good.
There's a I think it's still there. I hope it's still there because it's to me and the band that I used to tour with, it's iconic. But it's like in southern Indiana, kind of like right before you kind of get to the border of like Kentucky and like cross over into Louisville. But it was this place called like Pizza King, and it was like in this like strip mall, and you go in and it's like, you know, nothing super like great. Like the pizza's like okay, but like the whole aspect of it is if you sit on the booth side, like the I don't know if it's just the main side or like because there's two different sides, but if you sit on like the
Mhm.
booth side, all the booths kind of connect together and like it's in the shape of a fucking train. So there's like a little like cow catcher in the front, like, and then you sit down at your tables in the booth. They have GameCube that you can play.
Oh
So
hell
you can
yeah.
playing GameCube
That's
while you're
cool.
waiting for your food, and then like the waitress will come over like ask for your drinks, but like she doesn't bring you your drinks. There's a little train system that goes
Oh,
around and it'll drop off like your drinks, like it'll stop in front of your door, and then like you flip open the lid and like you eat your drinks that way.
That's
Uh,
super cool.
super kitschy, but like we made sure to stop there every time like we would
That
make that
sounds dope.
crossing.
that's so cool. There's a place in Kansas City in Crown Center called like Fritz's or something like that. That's super old that will deliver your burgers to you on a train system. And like the
Oh,
whole restaurant has like a train track around it and then a lift that the train puts the food on and the lift comes down. I remember going there when I was a kid and I was like, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen.
That's so awesome.
fuck
We're
yeah.
like very food motivated when it comes to like
We
touring.
are.
Oh
So
yeah.
like we like go out of our way to try like pretty much almost all local stuff, unless it's like us having to go to Wendy's at 4 o'clock in the morning in Jacksonville, Illinois. But like we've tried some like fantastic food. I mean, we've played Chicago twice now, and we did Luminati's the first time, and then we did Giordano's this past year just to make Aaron happy. But I gotta say, that Giordano's was slapping.
Hard to go wrong, honestly.
Oh
we're
yeah.
we're food motivated, specifically pizza. Like we always find an excuse to get pizza when we're on tour.
And apparently Indian food, but we've just never had Indian food on tour. We talk about it every time we go on tour. We're
That's
like, we need
true.
to find a really good Indian place because I think Lyle's the only one in the band who hasn't had Indian food. But I know you just tried Indian food like 2 years ago, right?
Not too
And
long
you like
ago.
became a big fan, and like Aaron
It's
and I were
right.
like, oh, we have to do it, and we just have
Yeah.
never done it.
It's tough because it's like that's a tough traveling food. I feel like because
Yeah.
you got to be in the car for like hours after that, or
And
go
if you
to a
make the
hotel with four guys in one room.
yeah, or you make the mistake and eat it before you go to play a show, like
Oh my god,
it's always dicey.
yeah.
Another funny anecdote about this last tour. We were touring with I Like Snaps, so it was two bands, and between two bands, it was nine grown men, and like obviously with nine grown men comes like a lot of bags and stuff like that. And again, person will stay nameless, but somebody booked the hotel rooms for the hotel, like for the tour, and for the first night of tour, there was two rooms booked, and we are like, oh, okay, cool. How many beds are in each? Two, and we're like, wait a minute,
It's
who's
like doing
sleeping?
math, and you're like, wait.
Who's sleeping in these beds? And it's like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. I mean, the website said they slept like enough people, and I'm like, you never trust the website, man. And then the
Yeah.
second night of tour, we were in Jacksonville, and we should roll up to a I think it was a Super 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and there's five of us at this point, and the guy's like, you have one room, and we're like, yeah, and he's like, you can't, you just can't do this,
Yeah.
like. So we learned
There's
a
a
hard
it's a
lesson on that
liability.
one.
Yeah. We're all standing there. It was like 2 in the morning or something. We're standing there with like Wendy's in our hand, and like all of our bags. And it's just like, yeah, no, you guys can't do that. And we're just like, what? And so yeah, we got a second room, and yeah. it worked itself out in the end. But yeah, no, it was we were just like doing math. Like, wait, I don't think that maths. I think I'm dividing the number of beds by the number of people, and I am not getting a whole number. So, but yeah, it's
Like we ended
sleeping
up
has always
having to
been
get
interesting.
a cot for Lyle in that first night,
Yeah.
and then the elevator died with half of both bands in them.
Yep.
So
There's a great
really,
picture
that
somewhere of just like six people in an elevator, like all sardined in.
I think me and Chris and Lyle got up there to our room and we didn't have keys, so we had to like sit outside. And then this couple who had like just got married or something like walked by us and they were like, "Hey, are you in a band?" And we're like, "Yeah, why?" And they were like, uh, they're all in an elevator and the elevator broke down. They're trying to get them out." And we're like, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
we should not stay at this hotel."
It's just a bad omen all the way around.
What we used to do is because there were six of us in our van, like we would send in like the one guy that booked the room and like one other guy to like go get keys, and then like someone would stand by like the side door and just kind of like let us in, or we would like in intervals just like slowly walk into like the hotel and just be like, "What's up?" to like the counter guy, and just like all just proceed to go to the same room. So that way they weren't like, there's six of you in a two-bed room, like you guys
Yeah.
gotta fucking go.
Yeah, you can't do that. That's great. We need to do that. Well, I guess there's four of us now, so we don't really have to worry about it. We
Yeah.
can get one room. We just save so much money.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
uh well, like I guess, those are some rough situations. What have been some like good funny situations that you guys have gotten yourselves into?
Well, I mean, good funny was not being in the elevator when it got stuck because it, brightened up my day a little bit. No, I mean we've gotten to play, I think, a lot of really cool places. Like
Mhm.
to Jordan's point, like we played at Pizza Records this last time, and it's so cool because it's like a record store with just like a venue in it. So like you
Yeah.
can shop for records and see the band playing at the same time. Super cool. Um, and I mean we all spent way too much money there, and
Like we ended
then
up owing the place money even after we got paid
yeah,
because of
we
how many records we bought.
yeah. It's tough. I mean, I think records are cooler when you get them on tour. I don't
Oh,
know.
100%.
There's just something about 'em. There's a story
Yeah.
attached to them. And then we played at another super cool record place, and the name is escaping me in Indianapolis. Do you remember? Or not Indianapolis. There was another record store we played at. I apologize. But we've gotten to play some really cool places, like some record stores and stuff like that. And it's killing me that I can't remember the name of the other one because they
Where
like
was
took
it at?
it's the one that like took a picture of us, and like
Oh,
put on their
yeah, it
social.
was in Indianapolis.
Yeah, as soon as I said that, I was like, that's not right.
I can't remember the name of it, but yeah,
It's
that
gonna
place
come.
was awesome. And again, we spent quite a bit of money.
Yeah, but so like places like that and like the community spaces like house shows and stuff like that. Always, sometimes you're a little bit like, okay, let's get a lay of the land. But it's always cool like the community that you like see and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and like people who are like. That's what they do like 3 nights a week is they all like show up there and hang out and have a good time making soup for everyone, all that kind of stuff, seeing the show. So yeah, I mean, cool stories is just like a lot of the people that we've gotten to meet and a lot of the cool
Hmm.
places we've gotten to go for sure.
Yeah, just like also just becoming like friends with other bands is cool when you like play a show together. We played in Chicago 2 years ago, 2023, and like we met these cool bands, Dog Beach and Commit This to Memory and Blueprint, and like most of those people and like that like were in those bands came and saw us this last time we were at Downers Grove, Chicago area, and it was like this is awesome. Like like we're like actually friends with these people and they're like in a cool ass band and we only played show with them once, but like so it's cool to like make those friends with those bands on the road. There's like always that like I think Brendan talked about it on about Fever Child, where it's like you first like meet a band and then it's like, oh, we became like best friend bands, and like that Dog Beach was like that for us. They're like super cool people. Um, funny, cool, actually. The venue we played at in Chicago this last time was a bowling alley. It's called Tivoli Bowl, and we weren't really like sure how it was going to go, and we arrived and it was like right away we were like, okay, this is interesting. We're loading in downstairs. Where are we gonna play? Are we playing? Are they closing the lanes? Like where? What is the deal with this place? So the guy goes, oh, come this way. And I think it was Chris. He goes, you mean through that archway that says fun and games? And it was like we walked through that archway, and it was like it felt like a playroom where it had like a stage and then pool tables and then like some pinball machines, and it was like so there's like a mini Chuck E. Cheese like feel to it, and we were like, are we playing like a 12-year-old's birthday party? Like what is gonna go on here? But then like they gave us a green room and like took really good care of us, and we were like, okay, this is cool. And they were a little cagey about like they're like, yeah, we think we should have a pretty decent crowd tonight. And we're like, I don't know what this is gonna be like, man. So we went and got Giordano's, and it was taking a little long. So our guitarist at the time, Evan, went back and he's like, oh, it's fine. I'll just take my pizza to go and like I can, survey stuff. And we're like, okay, that's cool. And he texts us and he's like, hey guys, there's like 70 people in this place. And we're like, yeah, okay. We were like, yeah, okay, thanks, Evan. We thought he was messing with us or something like that. And we walked back in and there was definitely like 70 people in that room. And we were like, where did all these people come from?
It was
like
it
in the
literally
weeks
went
leading
from there
up.
being like 3 people in there, like when we first got there, because it's like a bowling alley during the day, to like 70, 80 people, and it's like, oh, this is like an actual scene. Like people show up. It was
And the
cool.
funniest part was like all the bands were like, yeah, I don't know, we can't never really played this area, so I can't really like tell you that people are going to show up. And we're like, oh god, what did we
Yeah,
do? And then we ended up like playing
yeah.
this really cool packed show in this bowling alley, and it was just like really cool. And there were so many fun, interesting people there that just like I don't know, like they like a ton of them came and bought merch from both of the touring bands, and it was just really cool. It was surprising.
Yeah.
So it's like I think for us, some of the mottos of our touring is like literally do not judge a book by its cover, because all of the shows where we pulled up to a venue, we were like, ooh, yeah, how's this
Yeah.
gonna go? Have been like the best shows that we've played. And the
Mm.
ones where it's like, oh, this is a really cool looking venue have been like some of the worst ones we've played.
It's tough. Yeah, it like gets your expectations are like shot. Because to your point, Jordan, you were talking about that Chicago show. Like when we showed up there, it looked like it had like the vibes of like an old VFW hall. There was like
Yeah.
Mm.
wood paneling on the walls, like
Old
old couch,
couches.
like an old like medium wood tone bar. Like that vibe. You can picture it in your head.
There was no sign
And
out front.
no sign. Yeah, we like went past it like 3 times because we're like, is that place even like open? Like, did we get duped or something? Because there was no sign. And then like the guy showed up and he's like, yeah, I don't really have like a sound guy, or the sound guy wasn't showing up. So we're like, cool. So Evan, our guitar player at the time, ran sound for like the whole show, and we met all those Dog Beach kids, and like they brought people, and like everybody had a good time, and it was one of the most fun shows on the tour. So yeah, it's weird how that works out when you show up to a certain. I guess maybe your just expectations get dropped a little bit. And you're like, huh, okay, and then it always ends up being like the most fun show of the tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had something similar when I think we played like Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and we got there and like it was at a VFW hall, so we walk in and it's just like a bunch of old dudes just like at the bar, and we're like, what did we sign up for? And like it got closer to the show, like, and we were still like, okay, like we'll see how this goes. And then by the time like the show started, there was like a handful of kids like walking through, and like by the time like the second band went on, like the room was just packed with like all these kids that came out of fucking nowhere for the show. And I was like, okay, like we have to probably make it a note to like come back here next time,
Yeah,
because like those pockets that you hit that like they don't get shows all the time. That like obviously Chicago's a little bit different because it's so spread out there. I'm sure there's something going on, but like if you hit a pocket of somewhere that doesn't get shows or people coming through all the time, those are the spots that people will come out of the woodwork and like be at your show and spend way too much money on merch.
yeah. Yeah, I mean that one, it was in Downers Grove, so it's maybe people that are like in Chicago proper, and they're like, I don't want to make that trip for like most local acts, but they're like, well, I mean, that's 10 minutes down the road at a bowling alley, like that sounds like fun, or like that's their spot, like that is the spot in their city or whatever, and you don't know because you come from a bigger city, like St. Louis or something like that, and you're like, oh, there's 15 venues, and it's like not here, man. There's like three, two. So it's super cool. I like playing like little pockets and stuff like that because
Yeah.
if Illinois has showed us anything, it's that you cannot judge a book by its cover, because there's so many like small cities and things like that that have like scenes that rival, St. Louis and places like that. So very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely finding those pockets. If anyone's listening and they're planning tours or going on your first tour, like as maybe not take every show that you can get, but if you feel uncomfortable, like you're not sure how that show's going to go, see it through. It might still go bad,
Yeah.
but 50% of the time it's going to turn out really well for you.
And even if it turns out bad as far as like attendance, you might still play like a really killer set. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
this was like a cool way to practice on stage to the other bands and their girlfriends.
Yeah. Or like I remember one time we were supposed to play St. Louis, not St. Louis. We were supposed to play Louisville, and like we were so stoked because it was like an iconic like spot in Louisville. I don't remember if you guys remember there was a picture that went around, made the rounds a few different times on Tumblr, but it was basically like don't mosh into the pizza oven.
Oh yeah, I vaguely
Oh
remember
yeah.
that.
Yeah, so we were gonna play that venue, and like as we were getting into town and like finally getting parked and like go to the venue, like I guess all the other bands that were supposed to play, because it was two touring bands, us and our other friends, the locals dropped for some reason.
Oh,
So we were
geez.
like, okay, cool. The promoter was cool enough to like buy us pizza and was like you guys were gonna get a pizza whether you guys played or not, but like here's your pizza. Like I'm not gonna like send you guys off like hungry. And then he's like, if you guys want, you guys can stay at our place. But he ran like a DIY label out of Louisville and had like Knock Loose was signed to them before they went off to Pure
Mhm.
Noise and stuff like that. Like pretty decent lineup of just like Louisville bands. But like my friends made connections with them and like ended up getting signed to like that label just from like that one, just because all the locals dropped and we stayed at his house and just like geeked out over comic books and like video games that night.
Yeah,
It was great.
that's super cool.
Um, but this has been a great conversation. Talk about all things interpersonal, highs, lows. But I always like to leave off these episodes on a for sure high note. So my last question to the two of you is, from your time in interpersonal, what has been your favorite moment that you've experienced so far?
Hmm.
Hmm. I think for me, so far it's been playing the first show, that show at Platypus. Was that Lyle's first show? The one where we all recorded
Lyle's
stuff?
first official show because he played
Yeah,
that Stray Rescue benefit show with us before.
that's right. That show, so we played a show and it was kind of like the confirmation of us moving in the right direction, because we played some of the newer songs. We had Lyle, and people loved it. Like people went crazy for that. And as someone who's been in interpersonal like since the beginning, I was a little nervous, obviously, to start moving away from like the sound that we had previously, and just seeing a live audience accept that, like our new vocalists and like our obviously new guitar player and things like that, which you've played shows before, but it's like a culmination of all of the new stuff that we were like trying to do. And we didn't play like a lot of the new stuff, I don't think. um
I think we played two old songs and then like almost all new stuff.
yeah, I knew it wasn't like everything that was done, but it was like the first confirmation for me where I was like, okay, like we're moving in a good direction, like people like this, like we're good. Like people aren't gonna like shun us because we're not like ultra mainline pop punk anymore. So I think that was like my favorite moment, because it kind of like acted as a springboard for all the stuff that we're working on now, and the confidence that I have that we're moving in the right direction.
I'm trying not to say that show, but that was the first thing that popped in my head. Mainly because of that, like it was like that nerve of like, yeah, this new record isn't pop punk. Like it's kind of post hardcore. It's kind of emo. It's kind of shoegaze. It's kind of indie rock. Well, I don't know. Are people not gonna? Are they expecting Intervisions 2.0 and like then people really enjoying it? But I think also that show is so cool because it was Lyle's first official show with the band, and it was like this is interpersonal now, and we were kind of like prepping him because we hadn't really heard how the show was like promoted or anything, or like feedback on like attendance and stuff like that outside of like, yeah, it should be good, man, which you get every time. And so we were kind of telling Lyle, we're like, maybe 20 people. and it's Platypus, so it'll be good. And it was like at capacity all night for all of the bands that played. Like I had, except for I wasn't there, but I saw videos of it. Except for the military gun show that was at Platypus, this was like the most packed I've ever seen. It was crazy.
Yeah, like they couldn't fit everyone in the venue space. Like people were like out in the little restaurant area, like listening to the show.
It was cool, and it's just
Yeah,
like we had no idea.
yeah,
Right.
What did we do? Apparently something, right? But I couldn't
yeah.
tell you.
No, it was a great experience though. Yeah, I think that's my main. Yeah, that was my main thing, or the thing that I enjoy the most because it's gives me the most like hope for the future as far as like
Yeah,
makes me excited for like the stuff that we're writing now because I'm like, yeah, people like it, like let's keep
yeah.
doing it. So
Another update is just so I don't say the exact same thing as you. It's when that first day of tour last year when we put out Become Death and Alabaster as like a dual single. We were like, okay, this is going to be like the true like litmus test, and like immediately like the like streams on those songs are like skyrocketing, and you get we're in the car, we're in the van together, and like all of our phones are blowing up with like Instagram notifications with people like sharing it to their story, and it's like that is cool. If like
mhm.
because a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, I listen to your new songs, they're cool, man. But if like people are like sharing it from Spotify links to like their story, it's like okay, this is the validation we were hoping we'd get. And like, okay, you guys are actually liking this? Cool. We're not crazy.
Yeah,
And then just putting the record out. Like that was just so cool. So much hard work went into it. So like those would be some cool moments.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear possible more good moments if we ever do one of these again in the future. Like I'm really stoked on the Long Bright Dark and just everything else that you guys have cooking in the wheelhouse. I'm really stoked for when those start to drop and get to check out the new version of Interpersonal and what you guys are now and going forward.
We'll definitely not be quiet about it once we start getting some plans in motion.
yeah. Yeah,
Hell yeah.
we're just in a like we're in ultra planning mode right now where we're like planning out the year and exactly what we want to do when we want to do it. But we are working on stuff and I'm very excited with the stuff that we have in the pipeline so far.
Well, we'll all be ears open. If anyone's looking for merch, music, or interpersonal in general, where can they find it?
All first and foremost, come to a show.
Hmm.
We'll have it all at the show. But we have a couple of different T-shirts on our Bandcamp. I think we still have some Intervision CDs. We're sold out of the tapes, but like we mentioned earlier, we will have a second pressing on a different color. I think we have 6 left of the orange that we're just going to be doing in person at this next show, which will probably be gone because we did have people being like, "Hey, save me one," and I'm like, "Okay." But yeah, that'll be a good place. I mean, obviously Spotify, Apple Music, stuff like that, and then we got some music videos on our YouTube channel for Spiral and Alabaster. But then also, I think there's one for Wine Stains and Pavement. I can't remember what else there are on there. Some older songs.
Yeah, Pavement, Wine Stains. There's one for Called Me Back, which is like the first video. So there's stuff, and it should all be. I think we're interpersonal music, like at interpersonal music or slash interpersonal music on just about everything.
Yeah.
Um, so you should be able to find us on there
Yeah. So depending
or
where you
with
found
that.
this episode, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, or you watch the YouTube version, you guys see their lovely face like I did today. Check the hyperlinks down below. Follow them on all the socials. Be ready for new music, possible new music videos. Be ready for show dates. Get your hands on the next tape variant when that drops as well. And just be ready for all things interpersonal in the future.
For sure.
Dude, one last big thank you to Jordan and Chris for taking the time out of your Sunday to sit down with little old me and talk about your band.
Oh,
Oh,
thank
thank
you.
you.
That was a great time.
Yeah. I had a great time. Everyone, go listen to Interpersonal. Be sure to check out the Long, Bright Dark, and be ready for new music. And I'll catch everyone on the next episode. See ya.
Beers with bears.